This is video number 2 in my cabin building series, and in the end of the last video I decided it would be way cooler if I built my whole cabin with only hand tools. So I ordered this. It looks beautiful. As soon as I hit go on my stopwatch, I will pick up my saw and then I will cut a piece of firewood off of this log and do the same thing with my chainsaw and see which one is faster. This saw was specifically designed for this type of wood. I think I can beat the chainsaw for 1, maybe 2 cuts. Ready? Go. Not going good so far. My chest is cramping a little bit. My arms are getting very tired. That took me 3 minutes and 19 seconds. The reason that I thought my chainsaw would be a lot slower than that is because the chainsaw is cold. On your mark, get set, go. "34 seconds." I feel kind of sad. Hopefully you guys don't think less of me if I continue to use my chainsaw. So far, I've built a cabin frame, leveled it, and made a giant xylophone. I'm actually really happy with how the floor turned out. I thought that the thickness of the logs would determine how far they sticked out, but I didn't realize that because you're cutting the wedges, it's literally just the length of your wedge that determines how high or how low it sits on the log. So the next step is walls, and I'm a little bit intimidated about this part of the build. And the better of a job I do, the less chinking I'm gonna have to do at the end, and the warmer my cabin will be. Looks like a really good one here. Of course. I am determined to learn how to use this saw. I think the technique is a lunge, and what I was doing wrong yesterday was just using my arms. I gotta throw my whole body into it. Well, if it hasn't occurred to you guys yet, you're about to find out that I have no idea what I'm doing. I just spent the last 4 hours making some of the most hideous notches the world has ever seen. That one's not terrible, I guess. Nobody taught me how to do any of this stuff. I need to go to the library now and try and learn some stuff. I went to town looking for information and came back with all of these books and a baby. It's been a weird couple of days, but I'm back at the cabin and my head is full of knowledge. So I'll show you the proper way to make a notch now. This is my little poop machine. Her name is Adigan. So I had a fundamental misunderstanding about how log cabins are built. I thought they stack so tightly that you hardly need chinking at all. But the way that they used to build them is they actually made the notches so that there was like a consistent gap, like say 1 inch gap. And then they really rely on chinking to fill that hole later. Like you don't actually have to plane or draw knife the entire log flat. So I've got this little square, a carpenter square. And then I go to the side, or I go underneath the log and I measure the tightest gap. Probably right there. If I made the notch that deep, then that part of the log would be touching. And then I run the square as level as I can along this log underneath that I'm going to notch against. And I drag my pencil on the log here. So now if I roll this over, I just need to connect my lines. It ends up looking like a circle. And so instead of drawing a straight line from here to here, I actually have to imagine the circle because you're cutting along the radius of this log, the bottom log as well. And so if you just did a straight line, then it wouldn't sit nice. Now I'm going to take my chainsaw and cut down to all of these lines. And then when I'm doing this part, I'll go at an angle and follow that. And then I'll hammer out those little pieces and then take my chainsaw and actually use it like a grinder or like a sander and scoop out these logs. See how this one turned out? It's never perfect the first try, and I think that's to be expected, so I'm just going to go back and rework this one. The other side looks good so far, but once I finish this one, who knows, something might change. Alright, first level is complete. Not too bad. Now I just need to do that about 1,000 more times, and we should have a cabin. The cabin's going up pretty quick. I'm getting a lot better at notching. It's starting to get difficult to climb in and out of this, so I'm going to have to cut a door. But in order to cut a door, I'm going to have to support these logs because the middles aren't actually touching. So I'm just going to take this chalk line and go boop. And now I'm going to cut that line with my chainsaw. There we go. Beep, beep. Freehand milling lumber with my chainsaw is probably one of my favorite things to do. But I'm a little bit sad at this point because so far, this entire cabin has cost me $0.00. I've used about 2.5 gallons of gasoline, but there's no hardware, which also means that if I wanted to pick this cabin up and move it even 100 miles, I could just take the logs apart and reassemble them when I get there. I'd probably have to number them. But as soon as I put hardware in this, it's not so simple anymore. But at this point in the build, climbing over this wall is getting kind of unrealistic. So I need a door structure of some sort, and this is just the simplest thing that I could come up with. I bought a pound of these for $2.43. And I'm gonna nail those boards that I just made on either side of the door frame. And then when I cut my door, the logs on either side will be supported. All right, now I need another one about shoulder width from there. I think it's important to support the logs from both sides, and I might even go get some longer nails. All right, no turning back now. Pretty cool. Perfect size. I think I'm gonna make it a small door where I kind of have to duck in and out. I left that one so that the cold air doesn't pour in. And then if I kind of make it a duck door like this, then it'll retain heat. I'm about as high as I want the walls to go before I start making this thing pointy. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. You can have a stick going up in the center and then a center joist. And then the front and the back will have like uprights. Or you can keep stacking and then taper them, but then you gotta nail them in. And like I said before, I don't like hardware. You could theoretically keep doing these kinds of notches and taper them as they go up. I need to do some reading and figure out what I think is best. But for now, I'm gonna wrap this video up and I'll see you guys next week, where I'm building myself a roof on my little cabin. On a side note, having a baby has got me thinking a little bit longer term. I never wanted an apple tree because when you buy an apple tree, it could take like 5 to 7 years before you get fruit. But she won't really be able to enjoy an apple tree for 5 to 7 years anyway, so I bought an apple tree. But then did you know that you can't have just one apple tree, you need two? And not only do you need two different varieties, because each variety is actually the same tree grafted onto different rootstocks. So I got a second apple tree. And then while I was there, some guy told me, well, plums grow great here too, so if you like plums, you might as well throw some of those in with your apple trees as well. And of course you need two different varieties, so I got 2 plum trees. And then did you know that kiwis can grow in Alaska? It's an Arctic kiwi. So then I was talking to the guy, I was asking him, do you know anybody who does real good for apple trees and all these different kinds of fruit? And he said, yeah, everybody who does well has a 10-foot fence because of the moose. So I'm building my daughter a fruit orchard. And if you want to see me do that, it'll probably take me more than a week to get that project done, but that video's in the works too.